Right. Well, welcome fellow assembly members and everybody joining us on the Zoom call. I will call to order the Denali Borough Assembly meeting here for this evening. Starting off with a public hearing, and we are in Kentwell. In Kentwell, first meeting here in a couple of years. But first up on the docket is the public hearing. We have three ordinances in front of us tonight. The fiscal year 2023 budget, the capital improvement program list, and a charter and code amendment to allow electronic participation in our meetings. So if anyone would like to provide any testimony on those ordinances, step up here to our microphone, let us know. Don't see any members of the public on the Zoom call. Did we get any testimony related to these ordinances via email?
No.
Well, with that, I would close the public hearing. As always, if folks want to communicate with us during the meeting, you can hop on the Zoom call or give us a call at 683-1332 or email Mrs. Renshaw, our clerk, at arenshaw@denaliborough.com. And we'll make sure that your comments are here, that we hear you. And anything else? With that, I would ask Mayor Walker to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to get this regular meeting started.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Dominic Henry.
Here.
Joe Chatfield. Joe Chatfield.
Here, just having technical issues here.
No problem. Talon Street.
Here.
Lisa Minor. Here. David Alexander. Mark Johnson. Krista Zappone. Jeff Stanger.
I'm here.
Thank you. Jared Zimmerman.
Here.
There's a quorum.
Move to excuse the absent members.
Okay, moved by Mr. Shreve to excuse, and it's been seconded. Any discussion? Anyone opposed to excusing? Okay, hearing none, we'll call that unanimous. Move on to public comments. And similar to the public hearing, if you'd like to speak to us, microphone, or give us a call, and we'll link you in. Not hearing any public comments, so we'll move on to approving our agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Okay, moved by Mr. Shreve to approve the agenda, and it's been seconded. Any discussion or amendments, changes? Anyone opposed to approving the agenda as submitted? Hearing none, call that unanimous. And that'll bring us to the minutes of the May 11th public hearing and regular meeting.
Move to approve the May 11th public hearing regular meeting minutes.
Moved by Mr. Shreve to approve the minutes, and it's been seconded. Any discussion or changes to the minutes? Anyone opposed to approving? Hearing none, we will consider those approved, and that brings us to reports. And we have partner reports first up. Do not see any partners.
Let's do SAC. let me know that she would not be joining the meeting tonight with a report. Teresa, did you want to provide a Horizon update?
Yeah, I'll just do that during our report.
Next up is the finance report, and you have financials from April 2022. Is there a motion to receive?
I move to receive financial report April 2022.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Shreve to receive and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone opposed to receiving as submitted? Hearing none, we'll call that unanimous. And that'll bring us to Community Development Director report.
Okay, great. Amber, I just need you to allow me to share my screen.
Okay.
All right, so I have a few highlights to share with the assembly today. The first is I mentioned at the last meeting and gave a recap of the Antler Ridge Trail. And so we had some great volunteer and Denali Trail crew work done in the last week. On your screen, you'll see some before and after shots. So the Denali Trail crew and their volunteer coordinator chose the borough's future trail at Antler Ridge to be the location of National Trails Day, an annual event. We had 24 volunteers show up, as well as 9 from the Denali Trail crew to work on cutting about 500 feet of tundra to establish a trail connection from the parking lot to the existing social trail. And then we have been working with the Denali Trail crew this week, Monday and Tuesday, and will again Friday, establishing a functional trailhead, cutting tundra and putting down gravel on that connection, and then rerouting a very somewhat vertical approach of the first rocky section to go around that, to stay under, I think, a 15% grade was the goal. So the trail does look different, the access looks different, and it's been a very exciting project. So huge kudos to the volunteers who showed up and the Denali Trail crew for all the work going into that with us. An update on with Horizon Medical, we do have an updated MOA with Horizon to support COVID testing, mitigation, and vaccinations at the Canyon Clinic throughout the summer. So how that will look is that testing and vaccinations will both be available Tuesday to Friday each week. Hours for testing are a bit longer each day of those days in vaccinations. The focus is on providing free testing to local and year-round community, local year-round and seasonal community. Testing will be available to travelers and visitors at a cost of $75 per rapid test and $125 per molecular test. Vaccinations are free. They have Moderna, Pfizer, and the J&J vaccine, and that is 11 to 4, Tuesday to Friday. So appointments can be made through the Canyon Clinic. Walk-ins are available if online registration is a hurdle for anyone. And the free testing and vaccinations will continue as long as federal COVID relief funds remain. For the time being, Horizon is not having to pay. They're still obtaining those tests and vaccines free. If there becomes a cost to Horizon, then the framework of the MOA will be revisited as far as how far those funds will go. And the MOA with Horizon is made possible with, we have an MOA, a grant from the Department of Health and Social Services that funds are still remaining from. And so it's being administered through Horizon. Next update is on a community needs assessment focused on public health. There is a Master's of Public Health student, Dina Capoto from UPenn, who reached out to the borough to do her master's work on a community needs assessment for the Denali Borough. And so we'll be working with her this summer. She is also going to join our bi-weekly Denali Regional Healthcare Work Group call with different healthcare providers, medical directors, volunteer, fire and EMS, as well as public health. And so public health nurses and the Department of Health and Social Services will be a resource to her as well. She'll be conducting interviews with community professionals and leaders. She'll be looking at doing focus groups with a variety of demographics. And then also will be providing us with the community resource map to show current resources such as libraries, community centers, nonprofits, religious institutions, and medical facilities. So we'll be connecting with those various groups and setting up those interviews and focus groups. The intention being that a community needs assessment would allow the borough to better advocate for health needs in the realm of public health. So the borough was awarded a USDA grant through the Rural Business Development Program. We submitted it earlier this year for street signs. The focus of the grant was that rural business development, so really focusing on our small business and large business community to forward just businesses able to operate here and not encounter so many hurdles without having a physical address, and encourage future investments in our community. That grant was just awarded. We're waiting on paperwork. It's a resolution that you saw a few months ago that in the event of the award, a local contribution match would be made. So the grant total is for $1,114, $114,775. The federal portion being 80% of that. What it does is cover the street signs, production and installation in full, and a portion of the numbered signs to represent numbers signs for businesses. So that we got that news just this week. And then the last recap I'll give is on statewide planning efforts that are ongoing. There's 3 of note to mention: the Alaska Long Trail, the SCORP, and the SED. So the Alaska Long Trail, it's being headed by the Alaska Trails, a nonprofit in the state, and coordinating with what they're calling the Long Trail Coalition. So myself and Clay serve on that coalition, as well as different representatives from regions from the Seward to Fairbanks corridor. The next step will be to form regional working groups in each of those 5 sections. That really is aimed at involving all the different land managers in the different sections of proposed trail. There is a state CAPSIS request that is in the state fiscal year 23 proposed budget. The Long Trail includes almost $15 million in long trail projects. 3.7 million is from our own community, one of the separated paths identified in the Pell, the Carlo Creek to Krabby's portion. The SCORP is a statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan that is being updated for its next 5 years. It's taking a different approach, is being more specific. It's a comprehensive plan with more detail. And so it's going to allow different communities more actionable items as far as identified projects and programs this plan can be used to go after some significant grants. And so the Denali chapter is being finalized. The working group is wrapping up those final edits, and public comment will start this fall. And then there is a statewide comprehensive economic development strategy. And so we connected with that working group a couple of weeks ago. Fairbanks North Scarborough is also undergoing their own sets. So a couple of updated economic strategies in the state. It's mirroring a similar approach where it's more detailed. And so it's calling out specific projects, specific programs, specific initiatives that are more applicable to the communities in the state. All right, and that's what I have. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for your report. Any questions for Ms. Wilbur?
I don't have any questions, but I used the trail and it was awesome.
I so want to see you out there.
I did. I was like, yes, it was really exciting. It was beautiful. Well done. It was really fun. So
I just want to get out of the office for a few days. Definitely got some sun.
yeah.
Good week to do it.
And we have Superintendent Polt with us on the Zoom for school district report.
Good evening, everybody. I wish I could welcome you at Cantwell School in person, but unfortunately, I tested positive for COVID a couple weeks ago, and I'm still finishing up my isolation period. I think this was day 10 for me. I'm still actually testing positive, though feeling pretty good, except for a persistent cough and a bit of phlegm that gets quite annoying at times. But kind of moving on to the business of the school district, really want to just take some time, congratulate all of our graduates from all 4 of our school programs. We did have graduates and graduations at each school, with Cantwell having 1 graduate, Anderson having 2 graduates, Tri-Valley having 9 graduates, 7 of which participated in the ceremony, and Peak had a total of 57 graduates. And so many of those students actually wanted to participate in the ceremony that we rented the small auditorium in the Lusac Library in Anchorage for everybody to be able to go who wants to. Usually they just do a potluck in the office. And after about an hour, you just kind of say, okay, which parents want to give their kids their diplomas now? But so many people wanted to participate, we had to kind of formalize it a little bit more so that everyone could get their families there. The other thanks that I want to give tonight is a thanks to Commissioner Johnson. Earlier today, he announced his resignation and departure as commissioner, and that'll take place this month, June 30th. I really appreciate his service to the state of Alaska. He began his teaching career in the Copper River School District, where he served as a teacher, principal, superintendent before becoming the Commissioner of Education, I believe 6 years ago, and has served under 2 different administrations. And for several years of the Dunleavy administration has actually been the number 3 designated individual in terms if there was a sudden loss in the governor and lieutenant governor. Commissioner Johnson would have assumed the governorship for the state. So really appreciate his long years of service to education in the state of Alaska. Also appreciate that a large group of our teachers, I think about 7 or 8 in total, participated in a week-long training that we offered the first week that school was out. So instead of just immediately starting their summer vacation, they went back into the building and spent a week with Karen Martin developing learning expeditions for this coming school year. And those don't necessarily mean field trips, but really deep and in-depth learning expeditions that are kind of really involved units that really get kids engaged with some really authentic tasks and learning. And so the teachers were really able to dig into that and do some really great planning work and design work for that. I'm really excited to see that work. On the financial side, we did see this last month budget, operating budget and capital budget approved by the state legislator. We're still waiting for the governor's signature and potential vetoes or line item vetoes on those things. But we do see some potential changes or impacts into our operating budget for FY23. And specific on the revenue piece, there was a small adjustment into the base student allocation or the permanent ongoing funding on a per student basis of $30, which is a very small percentage amount. It's a 0.5% increase to the BSA. That's going to translate to an additional $40,000 for the school district. The other thing that the legislature did is they put in one-time funding, meaning non-recurring funding. And the details of that, when that kind of shakes down for the Denali Borough School District, would be about $300,000, all based on our budgeted enrollment projections. Unfortunately, we think those enrollment projections are a bit more robust than we're likely to see in the fall. And so we'll see a negative impact on our revenue when we do get those final counts coming in October. And that'll have that as some downward pressure on our budget. We also, again, as we were doing that preparation work, looking at known cost increases from our approved budget, we definitely see that our fuel and energy costs are going to be a lot higher than we budgeted, probably $100,000 higher. We've also made some changes in the peak allotment that's provided to students in order to remain competitive and maintain that strong enrollment. And that's probably going to be an increase of about $100,000 in expenses as well. That and a few small things we do see, even with that additional revenue coming in, that when compared to the approved budget that we approved in February, we're probably going to see a deficit, meaning leaning on our unrestricted carryover of around $150,000 for next year as the budget stands. As we get into the school year and see what our actual enrollment is, that's when we also are really able to start looking at adjustments that we can make in our expenses to help bring those two figures into line for the year. The other thing that's kind of exciting with the budget that's been approved by the state is in the capital budget, because about $100 million was put into major school maintenance across the state for projects in all the different school districts. If that survives the potential of any veto work from the governor, that would fund the reimbursement for the Anderson Roof project and help kind of recapitalize our local capital improvement project. It would also fund the generator upgrade project at all three sites. And so we'd be very excited to be able to start moving forward with that. I've also submitted a waiver to Commissioner Johnson that would allow us to do the upgrade at Tri-Valley using a more cost-effective model that does technically add square footage to the school, which due to our school student enrollment is not allowable as a capital improvement project. And so we need waiver in order to actually do it in a way that would save the public money. The capital budget would not fund the Tri-Valley roof project. And again, we're fine with that. We have reissued the request for proposals for that design work for the roof and also expanded the review of the roof for the entire roof to cover the kind of smaller areas that did leak with the excessive snow that we had this year, and really make sure that any design and professional eyes that we have on the roof are looking at the whole thing given this opportunity. And we'll also do some work in the design to ask them to be able to make sure that we could install solar panels on the roof in the future without damaging that building envelope, where right now we really can't put anything on top of the roof because it would increase the leaks. We know if there's some construction work that's done, we have the opportunity to at least put in some of the initial work that would allow us to expand a solar array there rather than taking up more of our grounds area. On some other facility things, some of the kind of that final wrap up work with the Anderson roof project, just kind of getting the kind of some small, real annoying pieces that still have like some tiny leaks in it. We are meeting with the contractors on site on June 17th to take a look at a few of those things. Also doing some internal projects, adding insulation into areas that were not part of the redesign, but really have had inadequate insulation since the roof was constructed in 1980, and also doing some insulation of some heating pipes that travel through the ceiling that are uninsulated as well. So continuing to do work to prevent the heat loss, which not only, again, is lost or energy costs, but then contributes to that melt, which then leads to the runoff and protrusions that we get on the Anderson roof. The other update is with the Cantwell School sprinkler tank. We were having some issues this year with a monitor that wasn't providing kind of its automatic feedback loop. The company Siemens did find a replacement part for that. And so we do have that part on order. When it comes, Siemens will come in and install that for us. And it will do two things that will allow the tank to automatically fill and maintain itself at the appropriate level and allow us to monitor the tank level from Tri-Valley. And so we'll be able to see that, yes, it's working and actually get the accurate tank level reading at that point. Another thing kind of just to be aware with the legislative work, again, still awaiting the governor's signature, but I do believe that he will sign it, is the passage of the Alaska Reads Act. It's a pretty significant act and will have some kind of long-ranging impacts to education in the state of Alaska. As the title says, it really will have an incredible focus for districts across the state on reading and specifically literacy and early literacy skills in kindergarten through third grade, mandating some assessment from districts and monitoring and interventions to help ensure that students are reading by the end of third grade. The other thing it does is will, over a period of time, add preschool into public education around the state. There's a process that the department will be developing for districts to have a preschool program approved, but at that point, they would actually be funded for preschool through the funding formula and also be included in transportation costs, funding, and services as well. So again, not just locally, but we see that impact kind of across the state of providing that universal access to voluntary preschool across the state is really something that can have a pretty significant impact in education for a lot of people in the future. On our personnel updates, do have a few things to report there. I think last meeting I mentioned that we'd hired somebody. We're kind of waiting for a few kind of connections to be made. And I can just share with you that her name, Nicole, actually Rachel Nicole Sangerson, has accepted a contract and been approved by the school board to join us as a special education teacher next year. She's an experienced teacher with a master's degree in special education. She's going to be joining us from the Philippines under the J1 Cultural Exchange Visa Program. We've also hired another woman named Maria Teresa Cordova, who has teaching experience in special education at an international school in Brunei and has a current K through 12 special education teaching certificate from New Mexico. And she's also going to be joining us next year. I'm very excited to be bringing her on. And then we've also hired local Danny Talarico to be our first grade teacher. And we'll do some transitions within some of our existing staff, and probably move Donna Gurley, who we've hired into the kindergarten position. Donna has experience with that age group and with that kind of that important access and readiness point. With Danny Talarico, she was scheduled to do her student teaching with us next year. And instead, we'll be working with the department so that she'll be fully certified to be a classroom teacher for next year and complete all of the final requirements while she's working with us. I think the other things with staff, just to make aware, we do have some summer temporary positions that are open. We did hire student Greg Ashley and Anderson to help with the maintenance and grounds work there. We still have one of those positions open and available at Tri-Valley for any student that's interested. Then we also have a summer security position at Tri-Valley that's open. And that's someone that just kind of helps, especially with all the community groups and usage that happen in the building and on the grounds, that everything just kind of stays orderly, that doors are locked, and that people are remembering and aware that the campus is an alcohol-free facility, even on the softball field. And that position is very flexible hours, so people can't quite tell when you're going to be there. And we just ask for rounds to be done for about a total of 20 hours a week if anybody's interested. And with that, I would entertain any questions.
Thank you, Superintendent Volta. I did have one question. Excited to hear about the Alaska Reads Act and yeah, the including preschool in that is really exciting. I was wondering if that would be included in the homeschool program. Would we anticipate in the future peak growing in that direction, or if there was discussions about how that would happen?
I'd say it will happen. We haven't had specific discussions about it. Right now, Peak does offer supports to preschool and even a very small allotment for families with preschool students, provided they have an older sibling in Denali Peak. And that's common through some of the other programs across the state as well. But it's not formal in any way. But Peak, as a public school in the state of Alaska, if we can have an approved preschool program, and again, that'd be approved curriculum for parents to use and follow, then we'd also be able to count those students in full enrollment. And since we'd receive state funding, would actually be able to provide a more robust allotment for that. But again, it's going to be time frame. I think it's going to be several years before we'd see that preschool like in the Denali Borough, and probably a similar time frame for Denali Peak as well.
Thanks. Any other questions for Mr. Polta? Thanks a lot for joining us and for the report.
Right.
Have a great
Thank
summer.
you. You're welcome. Enjoy your summer, and I'll be watching the rest of your meeting on the YouTube
Hope you
channel.
start feeling better soon.
Thank you. Sometimes I feel great, and then I start coughing. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. And we do have a planning commissioner with us, Mr. Mercer. Would you like to? Yeah, I think it'll get you from.
Yeah, you're good. You're welcome. Come closer.
Yeah, folks on the Zoom call, if you have a hard time hearing Mr. Mercer, he's coming up here. We're testing out the studio mic.
Because Zoom, you might want to stand just a little over there.
Oh,
A couple steps to your right.
He's like, no, I don't. I'm just here.
Right there, yeah.
Okay, so we had a pretty light agenda. Just one that I was thinking about was that we had a discussion here during the meeting as to limits on the, planning committee. And that was, kind of came out, I guess, out of the assembly was discussing this also. So you folks seem to be doing pretty well. We seem to be pretty short most of the time. I mean, the discussion was stay at 9 or 7, whatever, or lower. I'm always sort of like personally against getting smaller, but I can't think of maybe in this time, at least as far as the planning commission, like try 7 or whatever you guys decide to do. We haven't had 8 or 9 people there for a very long time. We got still got 2 or 3 positions open. So I can't see it come to this, but you guys have a nice turnout. So what we did was we approved the resolution for the main changes, which were just basically small changes on the names of the streets. We had one group, Rock Creek, that was dissatisfied with the naming that we had for the streets. They did not particularly like our setup. We did stick to the regulations that we more or less adopted for the planning commission. I mean, some problem is, once you start making a change for one person, then it just kind of gets out of hand. And we've been over this a lot, starting and then also at the meetings. And so all the meetings we had have been public and people have shown up and we've worked through everything as far as I know. And this was one group that did not show up in any public meetings, had a totally different, so we're sticking with what Marcia, so as far as the original. So if anything, any static comes up, it's planning commission's fault. We went over the annual work plan. We also looked at our priorities for surveying stuff for the borough, and then the Yanner is basically the next one out. Okay. Quite a bit of discussion on all of them. So the next meeting, we decided to have a work session before the planning commission, give the board a better idea as to what we should work as far as subdivisions, or what part, hopefully the next part to actually survey down to the part that we can actually sell, if I'm correct. Is that correct? That's good. All right.
You're doing good.
All right. So anyway, so there'll be a work session next planning commission meeting before the regular meeting. Everybody's welcome. And so as Mark, I think he made the comment was, oh, I joined the planning commission 9 years ago. We're finally getting around to doing subdivisions. Things move pretty slowly. Anyway, so otherwise we had a very light agenda, unless you folks got something else that you want us to be working on that I don't know about.
Thanks for the report, Mr. Mercer. Thank your fellow commissioners on our behalf for all the work you've been doing. If we get any static, we'll let you know.
We'll just send them back to you.
That'll bring us to mayor's report. Mayor Walker.
Yeah, thank you, presiding officer Zimmerman and assembly members. Nice to be with you on this beautiful June evening. On a clear sunny day, whether it be summer or winter, I don't think there's any more beautiful places on earth than Cantwell. So great to be here and on the road again. And yeah, I'd like to echo Assembly's thanks to the Planning Commission for their work, and excited about the next phase of having a work session on potential subdivision planning, as we've had a lot of steps to get there, from management plans to to surveying our lands, which continues. You do have a written report in front of you or in your board packet, and I'll run through some of these topics. A few of them do jive with Teresa's report, and really thank Teresa for that great report and for all your hard work these days. A lot of good things happening. And yeah, starting off with that grant application that Teresa reported on. I'm really excited to receive that grant from USDA Rural Economic Development. It is about economic development, and it's going to focus, on street signs and numbers that do help people find businesses. And we do believe it's going to be really important for our economic development. Give you an update on the redistricting committee. That committee met on May 23rd and did pass a resolution supporting changing the planning commission composition from 9 members to be defined by the assembly ordinance, by the Denali Borough Assembly. And I think a reason for dealing separately with the planning commission composition, separately from the planning commission composition, separate from the assembly and the school board, is that the planning commission is not an elected body. It is an appointed body, and it doesn't follow that apportionment mandate that the other bodies need to follow. So kind of separating that out was an approach there from the redistricting committee. And at their next meeting on June 14th, they will consider a couple different apportionment plans for election districts within the borough that would then come to the assembly. And that may be their final meeting, and they've done good work. That legislative administrative update that, the state budget is, passed by the legislature, awaiting governor's action. And as Teresa reported, it does have that long trail project of the Carlo Creek to Krabby's Crossing. And I've communicated with the governor's office that we hope that stays intact. A couple solid waste updates for the Denali Borough landfill. The Denali Borough did recently purchase an old but functional 2-wheel drive brush truck from Tri-Valley Volunteer Fire Department. Our landfill is required to have fire suppression capability in the event of a fire in the pits, and we've had a vehicle there that holds water. And our inspector will be pleased to know that we have one that runs as well. Because this truck does run and runs well, and it will serve that purpose well at the landfill. And we appreciate working with Tri-Valley on that one, and can serve other needs at the facility as well, including dust suppression. And then an update on the new D8, which those of you on the assembly in spring of 2020 will remember that planned purchase of the replacement of the D8. Remember, the D8's that primary workhorse at the landfill, and it really is in its 3rd life. We bought it a long time ago from Fairbanks North Star Borough when it had served its full lifespan at their facility. And then it served another lifespan at our facility, and then we put some money into it and kept it going, and it's really kind of in its 3rd life, and it does need replacement. And we do feel that replacement, that project, which was the first casualty of the COVID crisis management, we do feel like we're in a place of more fiscal certainty and comfort and ready to get back on that horse and that project and pursue that replacement piece. And so at the upcoming finance committee meeting, June 23rd, we're going to consider a couple different purchase plans. We've got over 700,000 in that equipment reserve fund, and that D8 that a couple of years ago was 850,000 is now about $1 million, and it's about 10 months out. So in terms of delivery. So we'll be thinking about potential financing for that portion, but with a really big down payment there, and maybe not too long to pay that off, frankly. But anything that comes out of that any final approval would require, of course, an allocation ordinance approved by the Assembly. I do want to thank those who participated on the solid waste front. I want to thank those who participated and will participate in those community cleanup activities, and thank the number of different organizations who hosted community cleanup activities, including the Denali Chamber of Commerce and Vanessa's efforts there. And there are other groups too. And the borough does accept yellow bagged roadside litter for free at all 3 sites. And thanks for everybody out there who works to keep our borough clean and beautiful. Even maybe outside of that community cleanup day, when you see that roadside litter, picking that up. Appreciate it. And if you want one of those yellow bags, stop in the chamber building, and she's got plenty. I picked them up in Anchorage. There are lots of them. So everybody, let's work together on that one. And let's see, Teresa worked through that MOA with Canyon Clinic. Really glad to have them as partners again in the provision of those services while those funds last. And that National Trails Day at Antler Ridge was a pretty special day. A lot of hands made little work. Really, we punched that trail in pretty darn well, and impressive timeline, I thought. And seeing how great our trail crew is here. Oh my gosh, they are hardworking, talented, and us volunteers are kind of just tell me what to do. We're working right along with them, and we can't thank that trail crew enough, and all the volunteers who helped and continue to help. That partnership with the park is really important on this, and couldn't do it without them. And really, again, thank Teresa for spearheading the organization of that on the borough side. It went really well. And yeah, Sarah and I enjoyed participating in that. The NACO conference I was talking about earlier, happened a couple weeks ago, happened in late May. The WIR, the Western Interstate Region Conference, really good conference. It does rotate between those Western states, and it was great to have it here in Alaska. Pretty good turnout, about 400 county commissioners from all over the American West attended, and a number of Alaska's boroughs were represented. I did attend, and I do serve on the NACO board of directors as well, and had a few meetings along those lines. The conference workshop topics were excellent: rural development, partnering with federal agencies, tourism economies, and other topics were part of workshops. And I was a speaker for a workshop titled Coal Communities, Investing in Intergovernmental Partnerships, which was interesting, and definitely a lot of takeaways and good things to bring back from that conference. I'm going to give you a staffing update. We have hired Forrest Shreve into that emergency management and project coordinator role, vacated by Mr. Chris Knoll. Forrest does have significant municipal experience gained at the city of Nenana, where he crafted grant applications, managed finances. He's been serving as the clerk and the treasurer there in Nenana, and helping with projects. And yeah, we look forward to him starting June 20th. And we are currently accepting applications for that administrative assistant position. We received a number of good applications, and we'll be scheduling those interviews soon. Also did want to let you know that we hired a temporary and part-time staff member up at the Denali Borough landfill to primarily assist with litter pickup, as there were some real needs there at the end of a real long and windy winter. And and she is a family member of another employee. And when we hire somebody, a family member of another employee, we report that to the assembly. And we hired Risa Olson, who's worked with us before at the landfill. She's served for us before, and she's working 2 days a week, and she is a hard worker, and it looks a lot better just with a few days of her work out there. Now, she's not being supervised by her husband, Travis, who's an equipment operator. She's supervised by Scott. right, and it's going real well. So we appreciate Risa's help and work out there. And then other meetings of note, yeah, May 16th at GBA. It was really good that they came down to Healy, the board did, and the executive team as well, to hear public comment regarding their upcoming decision on Healy Unit 1 and the investment in additional emissions controls. So I attended that and provided comment in support of the plant and those necessary investments. I participated in an AML board meeting that was kind of tagged right in front of NACO. It was down in Anchorage. It was the day before NACO, and also squeezed in a really good meeting with the new regional director for the National Park Service down there in Anchorage, and really wanted to support these partnerships because it is really important that they're supported at the leadership positions. Not only our partnership with RTCA and trail development, but that building trades program that is such a good partnership with the school district here. We talked about other things too, but we really wanted to support those. Really good visit with Senator Murkowski when she came through the area on May 29th. And I did meet with the Denali Citizens Council. Their board asked me to meet with them and any of their members who wanted to attend. And I provided an update on happenings within the borough and answered any questions that they have. That was June 2nd. So that's what I've got for you. And yeah, happy June and Cantwell.
Thanks, Mayor Walker. Any questions for Mayor Walker?
I have a question about the Antler Creek Trail. When is there going to be like signs put up so that you just buzz right by that thing, you can't even notice?
Yes.
The parking lot is beautiful, and it's a great thing. It'd be nice if people knew about it.
Yeah, so there will be a sign at the trailhead that alerts hikers that it is the future home of the Antler Ridge Trail, since formal design and construction won't occur for another couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And just to alert hikers that it's a unmaintained recreational trail. There's been discussion and still yet to come to a consensus of thinking through and considering if a sign should be at the highway if it's not a formal maintained trail.
Right.
And anywhere from liability to just expected facilities and state of an unmaintained trail. And so that's still up in the air whether a highway sign is advisable at this point, but there will be one at the entrance of that new established functional trailhead.
Right.
It's a draft is on my desktop as we speak to get that sign produced, just to let hikers know that this was the partnership that created this trail and that a formal trail will be forthcoming. But with the temporary porta potty and no maintenance, there's some concern over actively directing hikers to an unmaintained. It is, at this point, it's still an unmaintained social trail. So. Yeah.
There wasn't any signs, discouraging, and I don't know whether that was, and whether we even want to, like overnight RV parking there.
There is a no camping
is there?
sign when you pull in, and
Okay.
then that will also be on the sign that's put at the trailhead that there's no camping.
Yeah, there is a no camping sign when you pull in.
Yeah,
There are a lot of signs when you pull in. One of them says no camping.
yeah, right.
Mhm. But yeah, the highway signs were actually a part of the construction project, and those signs are in storage as we decided jointly with DOT to not place them without those additional improvements.
One scenario is revisiting that once the SST toilet construction is scheduled for the fall of 2023, which would include, a garbage can. So trying to balance that as it's still somewhat informal. So.
Is there any kind of a garbage out there right now?
No, there is a porta potty, so, but no garbage.
Such a beautiful park.
And I've been pulling. There's no garbage issue either. Things are looking really good and clean.
Yeah, so
It really
we'll
does.
keep a close eye on it. So it's a bit of a learning process as far as, and I've joked that I get service from the trail. I might bring my laptop up there one day and act as a little trail counter and send emails from halfway up the trail. So yeah, we're learning a lot throughout the process.
Awesome. Thanks, Mayor Walker. Brings us to assembly comments. We did have a member of the public join us. I don't know if you care to make a public comment at this time. There's always a spot at the end of the meeting, but.
No, I'd just like to say, today I was out Dry Creek, and the couple of the fire guys from Anderson were out driving around. I have Darren maybe told you. Anyways, I asked him, he was asking, where the roads go, etc. And we chatted a bit, but I did ask him about, the roads, and I told him that, the borough will be implementing their road names. So, and I said, how did you find out? And his partner said, we just dropped a pin and drove around. So that was probably around noon. And they said they were just out driving around, trying to familiarize themselves with the community. And when I came through the canyon, they were heading north. So.
With the city of Anderson, VFD.
Yep, and they had a brand new truck, and I told them, you probably want to turn that around or you're going to flame it with scratches. And he agreed. So, yeah, I was surprised. But yeah, a small, like, dually fire truck. So that was out there today.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Assembly comments. I'll start with Mr. Denali. Here to see you today.
Yeah, good to see everybody. Welcome to Cantwell. We still exist down here. Yeah, thanks for another round of great reports by staff. And, I appreciate, and we just want to thank everybody for all the hard work that goes into not just generating the reports, but the actual meat and muscle behind the reports and the activity. I didn't participate in the meeting you held, Mayor, with the Denali Citizens Council, but I did watch it post. And I just want to commend you on a job well done. And when the mayor went through basically the last several years of borough work, activity, and accomplishments, it was impressive. And the comments by those on the DCC board did reflect that as well. So anyway, I thought it was well done. That's all I have.
It is available on the website, or?
I'd have to, yeah, I can. I have to consult my wife Ruth because she's a techno expert. She's the one that put this up, but yeah, I think it is available. Was it done on YouTube? Do you know?
I don't know. I know they recorded it.
It was recorded, yeah. So maybe a link
Where it's found, I
found on a Facebook group page or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can probably find the link on their page.
Yeah. Go to their website.
And Mr. Alexander.
Also, thank you. Good reports. Missed a little portion of the first one, but I'm sure it was wonderful. That's it. Keep it short.
Mr. Shreve.
That's all right.
Ms. Minor.
I'll just say congratulations to the graduates. There are a lot of awesome graduates, I love them all, but really hardworking, and it was impressive to see the amount of scholarships that were handed out and that each student worked hard to get. And so it was pretty cool. It's awesome to participate and see that. And really excited about the trailhead. It was really awesome. And congrats on the grant for the signs, the street signs. Very excited about that moving forward. I like that.
Mr. Chatfield.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Yeah, I'm very pleased about the grant for the street signs also. And also want to welcome Forrest Shreve aboard. It's definitely Nenana's loss and our gain. I can't imagine the mayor up there is going to be very happy about losing him, but we're glad to have him. And the work that he's done that I know about in Nenana has been quite impressive. So looking forward to a lot of good things, and the expectations are high for him. So the pressure's on, Forrest. I guess that's all I have right now. Thanks.
Ms. Paul.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be down here. As hectic as all that construction is to get down here, that is also exciting to see. So our bridges are definitely an important part of our roadway, so it's good to have that done. Also, just how many people were walking around in the canyon when I drove through. It's good for that area, is good for everybody here, so that was encouraging to see. Other than that, no, yeah, it's been great. Looking forward to the rest of the summer.
Yeah, I'd like to echo the welcoming Forrest Shreve to the borough staff. It's great to hear, and also, yeah, to the recent graduates. Congratulations on making it through, and best of luck to all the things you'll be getting into. Also thanks to all the folks that came out for National Trails Day. I had sick kids, so I didn't get to make it. I was pretty bummed, but I have hiked it a couple of times, and just awesome to see how it's all coming together. Great partnership there. Glad my crew can be part of it on the park side. And I want to thank there's a Park Service office, the RTCA, Rivers Trails Conservation Assistance Program, kind of got an ongoing, the borough has an ongoing grant with them for some of the assistance, but that really helped facilitate, the ability of us locally to be able to participate and kind of make that partnership happen. So cool to see how that's all coming together. And then I wanted to thank Chamber of Commerce and the folks that were working down at the Kingfisher Creek pullout. I've been down there rollerblading and biking a couple of times, but just to see a facelift on the signage and stuff down there. There's so many people going by there that it's great to see that we got a fresh face on that stuff, making us look good. And thanks to Cantwell School for hosting us live and in person. And I'll go to Mr. Stanger.
Hey, nice to be halfway to Cantwell, sitting alongside the road. It's appreciate all the reports. Excellent job again. Great job on the trail. That's really coming along and looking great. I drove in there and looked myself, and that was a lot of work done in a short period of time. Wanted to put along my appreciation to the Planning Commission, all the work they did, and getting the street signs and all that stuff, working that out. I know there's a lot of people that aren't happy, but most people are, and it's progress, and you did a great job. It's kind of a thankless job, but you did great. Congratulations to the graduates, and I'll save the rest for later.
We do not have any communications or appearances on the agenda. And on ordinances, we don't have any draft ordinances, but we do have the three pending. First of which is that fiscal year 2023 budget.
To approve.
Yeah, second.
Thank you, Mr. Shreve. Motion to approve, and it's been seconded. I think it would behoove us to pass this one this evening. Or I guess it's approved anyway, if we don't, but
It's a little interesting.
if we want to change it or discuss it, now's the time. Any discussion on this one?
Yes, there are a few amendments that the mayor would like to talk about.
Mayor Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. So this budget was approved in April. We did a full presentation on budget, its development, and we had it on the May agenda. the public comment as well as this June meeting. And the document for this meeting has a couple changes. We didn't do a version B to do a substitute version B, version A, they're kind of small changes. But so I would ask for an amendment to incorporate the highlighted changes in the current document. And number one is the highlighted section which describes our forward funding requirement. It's just updating the forward funding number, and we need to update that to the 4.35 million as of May 23rd. So I'd ask for that, and then 2 line item amendments, and they're the 2 which are in red. One is line 4052, still on page 1. That's repairs and maintenance. It was 20,000. We're recommending to bring that up to 80,000. And in the narrative, we go back to the narrative on page 5, repairs and maintenance. You know what that is? That's the maintenance of the vehicle and equipment and facilities. And new language in red, and first floor office space renovation at Tri-Valley Community Center. It's going to need it's going to need electrical work. It's going to need sprinkler work and construction, new walls, new doors, new windows. And so we are working with a contractor on that project and would like to include that in the budget through an amended repairs and maintenance line item. And then on page 2, consultant fees, it was 32,000. We'd like to amend that to 38 to accommodate 40 hours of consultant work for a trail assessment for sustainability in the borough. That was a project that we applied for grant monies for. We didn't get that grant. So we want to, but we still believe it's an important project. It will support the work of the upcoming Trail and Outdoor Rec Committee. And we could get that work done through amending that consultant line 4080. So those are the 3 amendments that we recommend.
There are in red, the ARPA, Slurperf and Ligorg.
Yeah.
Some of those big numbers, have those changed at all, or?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So yeah, in red, you know, the total expenses, of course, change with adding to what we had. So that's why that's in red. And then the total governance expense minus the ARPA, again, changes because of the whole calculation changes.
Okay.
But we have received those funds. We've received those funds. They're reflected in that financial statement. You might have seen a pretty healthy number in our fund account right now. And so, yeah, those funds are still in this budget, allocated to those allowable and necessary uses to the school district contribution, to the nonprofit funding, and to public safety. All those starred line items, we will be using the ARPA and the LGRC to fund those, and that does bring down our total government expenses to 2.4 million, which is a really good number for us. And you know, looking at our balance sheet, we're going to be good going forward.
Thanks for that clarification.
Mm-hmm.
What was the maximum general fund before the change? You know, on
The prior version, I don't have it off the top of my head, but you know, I think it was about a month apart between the two calculations, and it's a month where we don't have a lot of revenue and, have average expenses, so about 300,000, it went down, it goes down as we go. So yeah, it was about 4.6 earlier.
So the repairs, just a quick clarification, we're still renting space from Tri-Valley.
Yeah.
Is that gonna reflect in the rent that is, so we're at it's money that we're going to renovate somebody else's building.
Good.
So I was just wondering how that's.
It's a good point. It's not being recouped. It's going into that facility for our purpose so that we can use it for our purposes. And it is an improvement on the facility that will stay with the owners. And, it's not a model that's that unusual as I've seen, frankly, when the bank moved in. It's kind of similar. They renovated it to their needs, right?
Yeah.
And left it that way. And now it needs to kind of change again to our needs. But it is not, we do not own that space. It's a good point. And good thing to just be aware of as we go. And which we are, of course. But we still think it's going to be a worthwhile investment for our use of that space.
Can you explain the use for that space? What's the intended use again?
Yeah, we're going to vacate the planner's room off of the big room, off of the Windjammer room. And Marcia's office will move into the Garden View office. We've been working on the name there, rather than the old bank space. We have two offices, the Mountain View office and then the Garden View.
Behind.
Like, yeah, like in a hotel where you get the not great view. It's the Garden View. So the Garden View office will house Marcia's office. It will house the Community Development Director, Teresa's office as well. Right now, she's working about, 5 feet from Amber and 9 feet from Connie. And, we're pretty tight up there. And so, yeah, that's part of the renovation is new walls and new office spaces. We're going to create also another office so that the teller line will be 2 offices. And one of those will be Teresa's, and the other will be available for those calls or meetings where you'd actually like to have some privacy. So it'll be very useful. And, also potential for the future as well.
Thanks.
Okay, the motion is to approve the ordinance. Any other discussion?
I move to amend
Oh, thanks.
the budget, the new amendments in there, or the new numbers in there.
As presented.
As presented, yes.
Yes. Second.
Okay. Moved by Mr. Shreve to amend, and it's been seconded. Any discussion on amending? Anyone opposed to amending? Call that unanimous, so it's been amended. That'll bring us back to the main motion, which is to approve. Any discussion on that? If not, ask for a roll call vote on approval.
Joe Chatfield,
Yes.
Dominic Denali,
Yes.
Mrs. Sapone,
Yes.
David Alexander,
Yes.
Jeff Stanger,
Yes.
John Shreve,
Yes.
Lisa Minor,
Yes.
Jared Zimmerman,
Yes.
it's unanimous.
Ordinance is approved. That'll bring us to ordinance 22-03, which is our capital improvement program list.
Move to approve ordinance 22-03.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Shreve to approve, and it's been seconded. Any discussion or changes to this one?
I'd just like to note appreciation again for the new composition of this report. The colors and the formatting makes it quite a bit easier to digest.
There's no discussion. I'll ask for a roll call vote on approval.
Lisa Minor,
Yes.
Jeff Stinger,
Yes.
Tricia Zapone,
Yes.
Dominic Canali,
Yes.
Tom Reed,
Yes.
David Alexander,
Yes.
Joe Chatfield,
Yes.
Jared Zimmerman,
Yes.
it's unanimous.
That is approved. That'll bring us to ordinance 22-05, which is our code amendment to allow us to participate electronically in meetings as approved on the ballot last November.
Move to approve ordinance 22-05.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Shreve to approve and has been seconded. Any discussion on this one?
I mean, if the internet died tomorrow, is that something that in person language gonna be an issue? Is the only thing that I could think of to discuss. I don't think so. Yeah,
We'd still be able to meet.
yeah. Just wouldn't be mandated to do it in person today.
Yeah.
Just hope it is. It's kind of a joke, everybody.
I don't even handle it.
I do.
No, I do appreciate getting together in person.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody for making the effort. And I do hope that that's not something that's totally lost throughout this whole pandemic thing, but it's also very, very nice and convenient being as dispersed as we are to be able to do it electronically. So.
Or in Jeff's case, halfway here.
I'm feeling the feel. I tried.
I do hope you can finish your drive at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, where
because
are
it
you?
is beautiful down here.
Where are you along the road?
I'm sitting right at the top of Grizzly. There's a pull out on the west side of the highway, and I'm right in between, or just short of where the pilot cars start. So every time they drive by, they give me an evil glare.
Motions to approve,
Mhm.
seconded, and ask for a roll call vote.
Okay, Jeff Stinger,
Yes.
David Alexander,
Yes.
Tom Reed,
Yes.
Dominic Canali,
Yes.
Lisa Minor,
Yes.
Joe Chatfield,
Yes.
Tricia Zapone,
Yes.
Jared Zimmerman,
Yes,
unanimous.
ordinance is approved. And pilot cars should be wrapping up shortly, Mr. Stenger.
It's 7 o'clock, right?
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah, it is. They are gone.
Yep.
Yeah,
Congrats.
they're pretty close.
Yeah. All right, brings us to resolutions. And first up is resolution 22-21. Resolution supporting Golden Valley Electric Association investment in Healy Power Plant Unit 1, additional emission control project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Zapone and seconded to approve the resolution. Any discussion?
I just have a random, I mean, not random question, but what is the date they have to make the decision on is that December 31st? Is that when they find the final decision?
Yeah, thank
Want to
you.
do that, Mayor Walker?
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. The date is December, at the end of December, but they anticipate making that decision prior to December. So they've been soliciting public comment, and they heard a lot of good public input, both here and in Fairbanks. And I thought it was important that the Assembly have their voice as well heard, and did want to forward this resolution, and we'll get it to them if passed tonight in a timely manner, as I know that the decision could come sooner than later.
You know which way they're leaning?
They reiterate they have not yet made a decision, but talk to individuals and people have different reads, but work through the process, and I'd like to think they're leaning towards keeping it open. So right on that.
I think it's important to keep it open. With power and the price of diesel as it is, if we have an outage down here and we're buying our power, bills are going to go up significantly. And then you have the additional radar that's going to come online and other projected radars at Clear. I don't know if they can supply power to all that's required, Clear and anybody else.
I have a little bit of a problem with this in that on the drive down here, seeing all these brown trees, having the road closed halfway through in the park, these are sort of natural processes that are exacerbated by climate change. Coal power is the worst offender as far as affecting climate change and putting CO2 in our atmosphere. This is a recreation-oriented borough. Our borough money comes from our tourist industry, and our future depends on that. And so I feel like the money that's spent to upgrade this plant, it would be better spent finding alternative sources of energy. And so I would encourage people not to vote for this resolution.
The brown in the trees is from the spruce bark beetles coming
True.
up our highway.
True.
The other power that we're using right now, it's going to take a long time for any alternative energy programs to come online to take up the considerable need. And that's going to cost a ton of money and a lot of time. And then when you have a bunch of white windmills sitting in the way of all the beautiful view. But if you do away with the coal, you're still burning diesel. You're still putting CO2 into the air.
At a lesser rate, coal is by far the worst. And this money, that millions of dollars that is going to increase the lifespan of this power plant could be used to further a less destructive means of generating electricity. The latest IOPC report gives us 30 months to reduce our CO2 emissions in order to keep us underneath the 1.5 centigrade cap that we hope to have without causing massive problems. I mean, we're already seeing the Park Road, people call up on that info line and they're like, oh, the Park Road is closed. Well, I'll come back some other time. And this is having an effect already. And at some point, something's got to be done, and now is the time.
guess from, oops, sorry.
I'm just gonna go to Mr. Chatfield.
Yeah,
He's got his
go
hand
ahead.
up.
Thank you. Yes, I definitely want to speak as to the importance of coal in this particular place. First of all, it doesn't get any more of a local power source than right here. And then additionally, we have some of the cleanest coal in the world that is mined right here in the Denali Borough and has been for, well, nearly a century. And Usabelli coal mine is a model mining activity when it comes to land reclamation and restoration. There is no one else that does better than Usabelli. And if you were to go out there and physically look at the ground and do groundwater measurements and see how much water is reabsorbed into the ground versus runoff afterwards, and then if you were to look at what the lab samples are of the water that's taken out of test wells, it is absolutely the best case scenario in terms of any type of an extractable fuel that we have. The coal plants that we're using use a coal that is a much cleaner coal than what you're getting from other data, which is usually anthracite, which has a high content of mercury and sulfur, and it causes a lot more than just additional carbon in the air. It's those things produce acid rainfall and causes mercuric poisoning in the population that's in the area of those coal plants. Right now, maybe you don't like the idea of coal in principle, but the reality is in their intervening years between now and the time that there is actual technology where we can magically produce this electricity that we need in order to fulfill the infrastructure that's necessary for the people to come and recreate. Recreation, by the way, is not a life essential need. That is not critical to life. It's nice to have. And yes, our borough government runs off of the dollars that are provided by people spending money here. But at the end of the day, we need to have something that is sustainable, both in the near term, midterm, and looking down the road further as we do make a transition. I don't think we have an arguing point here as to whether we should try to transition to something better. But the thing is are we going to shoot ourselves in the head first while we're waiting? That's really what you're proposing here. And if you give it a little bit more thought, I give you credit, Mr. Alexander, you have enough intelligence to realize what I'm saying is true. So anyway, that's enough said here. I'm totally in support of going with a cleaner version of the plant that we have, extending its life. And then yes, I'm on board with you as far as looking for better ways to produce power. Absolutely. And we can have that conversation. And in fact, personally, I've invested very heavily in solar power and some wind power of my own, but it's not the complete answer. I have to have a diesel generator to go along with it because of there are gaps there, and not everyone can afford what we've done. So really, we have to think about what we're doing right now and how it's going to lead into the future, and how we are going to be able to use this power source wisely in order to get to where we want to go. Thank you. That's all I have.
Ms. Zapone?
Yeah, so I'm not quite as set as Mr. Chatfield is, but based on what I understand about the technologies we currently have, it's just a lot of the renewable energies that we're creating are actually taking, fossil energy to excite or start or turn on to begin with. And I hear you with the ticking of the 30 months but in order to really stop using coal and start using something else, we're really gonna need coal to like make that happen, whether it's the equipment they use to build the dams or house the people. I mean, and in here it does say that our prices right now are twice the national average. And unfortunately, I don't think either way, if they take it out or they upgrade it, that's gonna go down. I'm pretty sure it's gonna go up either way, because we're either gonna pay for the upgrades or we're gonna pay for the differential of the fuel source. But we would need something that we can have as a base power. I think that's even in here. So like if we could say in 30 months, we're gonna have a fully functioning dam at some non-partisan and that's just not the reality for our area or for frankly the state of Alaska at this point. Not to say good, bad, or otherwise, it's just if the technology could jump ahead of us and then be available, that would be great. We just don't have it. And as a body of the people, I feel like we would be in a little bit of disservice to not support our people. And Golden Valley is going to make the decision that they're going to make regardless of this. I feel like this is more of a, hey, our fellow employees at the power plant, we got you. We're going to do what we can to put our opinion out there for you, knowing that we don't ultimately have that decision to make. And so that's kind of my perspective on this resolution.
Mr. Alexander.
I would just say that the time to do something about this is now. We're already feeling the effects. The Arctic region is affected disproportionately compared to the rest of the world. Warming is happening much faster and is going to be more of a problem here. This is a decision that is for the future economic benefit of this borough. I feel that this is in the borough's best interest.
Well, if people move out because they can't afford their electricity bill, then it's not in our interest either. And that's, it's not a good answer. If we had the solution you're dreaming of to start tomorrow, then I would say, yeah.
You got a lot of windmills on that hill.
And how many hours and time and years, sir, go into making a wind farm?
Yeah, I mean, it's
a 5-year process.
It's a hard process.
And it's
but
not
the time to start
it's
is
not a
now.
reliable source of energy.
Excuse me. I just have to mention something here. I'm just pointing out that Ms. Zabone is someone who makes her living off of alternative renewable energy. She's the one that has been working on the wind turbines here. Just pointing that out for you, Mr. Alexander. Thank you.
I just take into consideration, it's not, we are affected job-wise and through our bills and how much it costs, but this is GVA, we're powering, what was it, like 40% for the interior? It's like, there's so much more than just Healy that it is powering, and I feel the same. I would love to switch to something that is less, but at the same time, it's not in place. And then what happens? We can't even power this massive amount of area in Alaska that needs power. You're not going to be able to afford power because there's going to be no alternate. There's nothing that can be put in place in the next time limit that will cover what the coal is covering right now. I think that they don't have enough time to put that in place. I did listen to the meeting while I was actually on vacation, and I listened in on the meeting, and my husband spoke about the reclaiming the carbon, the CO2 and putting it back in, and that there's technology now that maybe that's what we should be looking at. We have the coal, we have the ability to use it and to power, and maybe we should be looking at ways to keep the CO2 down that way instead of just completely abandoning it and moving on into a resource that we don't have the technology to keep up with what our needs are.
I'd like to go back to need. The windmills that we have in place aren't enough to supply what Clear requires with the original radar and the existing infrastructure on that base. And so if you start getting rid of power or the plant there, it's a significant hit economically, and it's going to affect everybody else. Your bills are going to potentially quadruple if you're buying it from a diesel powered plant, because there's nothing in place right now or in the future. It's going to take a while to build other alternative power. But
Yeah, I agree with,
our biggest pollutant is vehicles, but everybody's still driving, you know, and there's a lot of things you can do, but right now I think we'd be spiting ourselves to not support keeping this place open. Because I live off the grid. I don't have electric, but I know a lot of people can't live that way. A lot of tourists ain't going to live that way when they come up here.
Mr. Canal.
yeah, I just, without continuing in, the debate, but I agree with Mr. Alexander. And yeah, we're not ready to switch over to Plan B, but I think that 30 million could be better utilized if it was into developing a clean energy grid, at least get that ball rolling. I've lived here 30 years in Kiowa, off the grid. Yeah, we need a gas generator to fill those gaps, as Mr. Chatfield has explained, but I'm not suggesting that everybody do that. But we're living in a different world. All those brown trees, come to my house, and yeah, they're all beetle-killed trees, but they're our infestation is the result of climate change, and I'm not going to deny that. So even though I anticipate the resolution will pass, I'm not going to support it.
I guess my thoughts kind of go back to thoughts I have on kind of sustainable development in general, and I see it as being an economic aspect, a social aspect, an environmental aspect, and this question has pretty serious repercussions for all those. The cost of coal-fired power compared to any of the alternatives right now, at least I guess reasonable alternatives that can supply our grid demand, in a reasonable way. Coal is a lot cheaper than diesel and naphtha, and those are the real alternatives. And in a social sense, just living around the Healy community, there's a real social benefit to having all those well-paying jobs here in the borough, and in terms of our local cooperative, investing in energy. The ability to invest in energy in a way that supports a community like ours is a real asset that a lot of electric co-ops, don't have. So I think that's a pretty big factor for me. The question of, global warming and our carbon footprint is a tough one, because, if we are going to suffer that social cost and the economic cost to reduce our carbon footprint, that's a big ask of us. Like, we'd all pay, we're already paying double the cost of electricity that other places in the country pay. And part of that's just the cost of living up on the fringe of habitability up here. It's not just electricity, it's what we pay to heat our homes. Every time we get on a plane to visit family someplace else, like the carbon footprint up here for anybody living is, at least in kind of a modern society, everything is off the charts. It's just not a great place to live if you want to have a low carbon lifestyle. And that's, and part of that's the tourism industry, like cruise ships and airplanes and rental cars, trains, like all of that. It's a huge carbon footprint, that supports, so much the lifestyle that we have here. So I think the questions of grid capacity and what can we do, now to support this is a big one. And, if the wind's not blowing or the sun's not shining, if we, go back to, damming up some of our major rivers and I think the cheapest and most reliable energy in the state is from a hydro dam that we've had for how many years? 40 years, however long that's been going, and still given, like. But there's an environmental cost to, for sure. If we're gonna burn usability coal, we should do it right here. Don't have to put it on a train, don't have to. It's much more efficient to send it up and down the intertie, I think, than it is to ship it by rail or to put it on a barge halfway across the world to have it generate power someplace. One question I have specifically about this project, and I haven't looked into it a whole lot, is just with regarding the technology, the retrofit, what that does to the efficiency of the plant, kind of as it stands. As the environmentalist in me is much more concerned about the carbon footprint than I am about the nitrous oxide, or kind of I feel like part of our question has, our major concern, with destroying the planet is much more related to carbon and how much of that we're putting up into the atmosphere rather than the acid rain stuff. So it's $30 million, in something that's gonna cause us to burn more coal to generate the same amount of energy, just to be able to take the NOx and SOx out of the emissions. There's a cost on a diesel truck, and the efficiency does go down, and it creates all kinds of other problems. And I think that, I think the carbon footprint is the biggest one. And I just hate to spend $30 million to make that problem worse, all things being considered. It's worked well for 50 years as is. And at the same time, if it does work well and it doesn't reduce that efficiency, part of me is like, why didn't we do this 10 years ago when we knew it was coming down the pipe? Like, why didn't we double down? Polluting the air for 10 years when we knew if we were going to double down on it. It's like, could have been having, cleaner air in our community and the whole planet for the last 10 years. I would have cost 20 million instead of 30 million at the time. So, shame on us for kicking the can down the road. Anyway, but I will support the resolution here.
And one other anecdote is just like when Golden Valley's infrastructure can't match our need, they buy power from the Matsu Borough. So if we, again, limit the Golden Valley or the interior profile, we're actually taking money from ourselves by cost going up, cost of doing this, cost of doing that, but then our money is actually going to Matsu Borough. It's not staying here. And I think that that's kind of a valid point as well.
Discussion. Roll call vote on approving resolution 22-21.
David Alexander,
No.
Lisa Minor,
Yes.
Krista Zapone,
Yes.
Dominic Finelli,
No.
Helen Street,
Yes.
Jeff Stinger,
Yes.
Joe Chapfield,
Yes.
Jared Zimmerman.
Yes.
It passes 6-2.
Bring us to resolution 22-22 to participate in the Alaska Municipal League Joint Insurance Association Loss Control Incentive Program for the Denali Borough.
Move to approve resolution 22-22.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Shreve, approved and seconded. Any discussion on this one? Mayor Walker?
Just for your information, this is an annual resolution, as our insurer, AMLJIA, does ask that the governing body approve participation in this incentive program. It does improve our safety awareness, and it saves us money as well.
Hard to argue against.
So this is, sorry. This is something we do every year, like it's a, we've been and used.
Any discussion?
We also get, don't we usually get like their standing operandus or whatever, the Alaska Municipal League? When we're part of that, we get their like a packet of paper with like their objectives and their goals and is that making it up?
For before their conference?
For the legislative,
Yeah, we get like, because they edit it every year, right? And then we get a new copy of it. Like this isn't,
this is.
we're not blindly a part of the Alaska Municipal League, JIA. Make me look stupid on the internet.
No, not at all. No. AML and AML-GIA, this is the Joint Insurance Association arm or of AML. And AML-GIA does present at our AML conference in Anchorage in November. They present the financial report and standing and talk about the different programs that help support Alaska's municipalities as AML-GIA provides comprehensive risk management, workers' comp, liability, auto, property coverage. So that's their role. And they do it well with this, their whole program, but specifically this loss control incentive program. It does come with also a safety savings account, actually some money that we can use to buy safety equipment. So it's another good feature of this program, should we elect to participate.
Thank you.
Is it comparable to other insurances? It says incentives, so is that like lower the cost based on like other insurance?
Incentive to control your losses, to operate safely is the, in the insurance risk world, loss control is, not having claims. And so incentive towards reducing claims through safety programs. Trainings, monthly safety calls. We participate in a monthly safety call.
And this is a not-for-profit organization.
Correct. It is.
Just the program itself is a pool, which saves us more than this loss incentive does, but who knows, because if we just wear the right shoes, maybe we won't trip and fall and have a claim, so who knows how much more we're saving.
Is there approved footwear through the loss control program? Closed-toe shoes only.
I'm currently barefoot, so.
No footwear at all. And we do actually use the safety savings account to buy, some different things along the way based upon need, but steel-toed boots for our solid waste employees, operating equipment is one of those uses of our safety savings account.
That's good.
There's no other discussion. I'd ask for a roll call vote on approval of resolution 22-22.
Lisa Minor,
Yes.
Helen Shreve,
yes.
Joe Chatfield,
Yes.
Dominic Canelli,
Yes.
Jeff Stinger,
Yes.
David Alexander,
Yes.
Krista Zapone,
Yes.
Jared Zimmerman.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Ordinance or resolution is approved. Brings us to other business, and we have a borough personnel policy update.
Vote to introduce.
I guess we'll have motion to approve the amendments, your update.
Move to approve the update, the amendments in the update.
For a second.
If it needs to be approved, I second.
But
Does it need to be approved?
It's for your approval.
It is, okay, I will second.
All right. So we have the motion to approve on the table. Mayor Walker, you want to talk through?
You bet, Mr. Zimmerman, be happy to. Thank you. We do have, after a fair amount of work and time and effort, an updated, revised personnel policy and procedure manual for your approval.
Oh, man.
As you'll see on the, the front page, it was first adopted by the Assembly in '94, and it's gone through several revisions. The next one was 10 years, next one was 5 years, and then when we started coming at this revision in 18, I kind of thought to myself, because I've been at this for a while, didn't we just do that? We approved it in 15, a pretty big revision that, our staff that I was part of worked on. And at the same time, it's always good, it's a changing world we live in, and it's always good to keep your policies and procedures up to date. So we started this process in 18. And we were derailed for a couple of years there through COVID. We did not spend much time and effort on our personnel policy meetings and rewrite. We got back to it more recently and completed the work. It has gone through legal review recently. Full legal review happened not too long ago. There's policies and procedures that have been clarified, aligned, corrected with, and there's some, now, one where flexibility is important for employees and for the organization as well. You'll see some new programs. One, let's see. I'd be happy to talk about maybe a lot of different things in here as you like, but I'd like to also highlight a couple.
If you highlight,
Thanks. Okay.
we can go into questions if people.
Sure. So every section really went through with a, fine tooth comb, I guess you'd say. And on the flexibility part, cell phone use is a new one that is on page 14. More communications are happening on cell phones, more requirements for just doing borough business. For example, multi-factor authentication, to make sure you are who you are, comes through your cell phone. And so we have a new program wherein if the employee elects to use their personal cell to conduct borough business, which is happening, and we are kind of requiring that of employees without any compensation currently, that it can be compensated to receive a stipend of $25 per biweekly paycheck. There is also incentive to pursue additional job-based education and training, which we've never had, and a lot of other employers do. And that's been a question in interviews. Do you have that type of program? And the answer's been no. And so in this new manual, we say the Denali Borough does support and encourage employee education and training, and may be reimbursed up to $3,000 per fiscal year for college courses or other training opportunities if the course or training is relevant to the employee's position or duties. So that's kind of a new section as well.
Can you take a college course for $3,000?
Nope. Sure can't. Might be able to buy your book though.
One class?
One class.
Yeah, I'm currently in a master's program through the University of Alaska Southeast. And one class costs $1,700. So it wouldn't get you real
Got a
far.
magic wand? What the heck?
It doesn't you don't have to do it. Does it require a specific university or just any university within that $3,000? Like that's your reimbursement.
As long as the course is relevant to your position.
Who determines that? Is there a review process to say, yeah, this is approved? You wouldn't want to be surprised thinking, hey, I'm gonna get reimbursed $3,000. I'll get to find out.
Well, they have to get approved
Yep,
first.
we do have that. Employees shall receive prior written approval from their supervisor and submit proof of successful class completion. to receive reimbursement. Yep, needs to be approved. PTO and use, definitely been an ongoing work in progress. That's the next pages. Defining, who to go to for different things. Clarification along those lines is throughout the document. And one other kind of a new program that we actually are not quite ready to implement, but if this is approved, would be ready should our health insurer be ready. And that is to provide additional flexibility for employees should they decide to opt out of our healthcare offering. We currently don't have that as an option. And our healthcare is not cheap, as we all know. And we've heard that other employers do this. We know other employers do this. It's pretty common, actually, to provide a financial incentive if you opt out. It's really a win-win for the employee and for the organization for that sum of credit for opting out is certainly way cheaper than the insurance itself.
Under the assumption that the person has insurance through a spouse or.
Right, and that's all would be part of the program, which would be through the insurer, right? Connie's been working on that.
Not assumption, there's
Proof.
proof.
Oh, okay.
So those are
have proof of insurance?
Those are some significant kind of new offerings along the lines of flexibility. The borough thinks makes us a great employer and an attractive place to seek employment. Those are some of the ones I wanted to highlight, but there are a lot of changes in here. I'd be happy to talk about any of them.
One of the things I noticed is that the COBRA benefit has been just eliminated.
We always had it in there, but it's never been used. And
We don't have enough employees to qualify.
we don't qualify.
Okay.
That's why it's never used. We don't qualify for it. Yeah.
Because there's like a 50 employee, whatever the. What if we get bigger? We'll put it back in.
Yeah, that's in the next table.
Next review. And I'd like to thank our staff for continued dedicated work and attention. As you see, there's a lot of work that's gone into this revision.
Is there a telework policy, or was there anything in place before COVID? I didn't notice it on my way through, looking through it earlier, but
Fixing time schedule.
just wondering if there's lessons learned over the last couple of years that we want to
Flexibility.
in here. Yeah.
Right. We do offer the opportunity to telework when appropriate, when helpful. And at the same time, we do ask that employees come in as well. There really aren't any positions who are solely teleworking, but telework is allowed and can be pretty darn useful, especially in that hopper of an office when you have a half day scheduled of Zoom calls, take those from home and then come in for that collaborative work. Because that collaborative work in the office is important.
As we're expanding our office space.
Right.
But then
Yeah.
they'll have their Zoom room. They'll have their Zoom room. They won't be
Turns
able
out
to do
office
that.
space is real cheap right now because everybody's working from home. Maybe not in Denali
here.
Borough Office Park.
Also, there wasn't prior, the salary steps. It wasn't defined in our personnel policy previously. It was a practice, and we had that the steps, but it wasn't in the manual.
Any other comments or suggested changes to the personnel policy? Thanks to all the staff that participated in this 5-year review of the personnel policy. Thanks for all your work on COVID and your patience in the reviewing of and updating of the personnel policy. There's no other discussion. I would ask if anybody's opposed to updating the personnel policy as suggested here. Hearing none, we'll consider the changes approved. And that will bring us to a Trails and Outdoor Recreation Planning Committee. And we have seat appointments that would be looking for assembly confirmation.
Yes, yep. All right. So at your last meeting, a resolution was passed to form a Trails and Outdoor Recreation Planning Committee to consist of 9 members. We put out the word and had a simple form that folks could fill out, submitting their interests, identifying what asset they bring to the committee and their areas of interest in outdoor recreation. We had 17 people submit interest, which was outstanding. It was a very unexpected surprise to have a list that we were then had to look through and consider to get down to 9. So thrilled to see so much interest in that. We do have a list of 9 names and then a couple of ex officio members for the assembly to confirm, and we'll reach out to the nominated folks after this meeting. You have the list in front of you, but based on what they submitted to the form, I can give a quick overview of who these people are. If some of the names are unfamiliar, would that be helpful?
Also, it would be helpful if you told us what your criteria was with selecting these.
Yeah, absolutely. So the goal was to represent the breadth of the borough, so geographically, and then breadth of experience and focus of use. And so having, from Cantwell as far north, we didn't have anyone submit interest from north of Healy. But so that was one of the things we looked at. And then whether, people's role in the community, long-term resident, business owner, and also just the area that they had that knowledge in, was it motorized, non-motorized, winter, summer. So really trying to make sure we had every aspect of trails and outdoor recreation. So anywhere from trails to playgrounds was the intention. So the 9 names, we have Luke Lohmiller. He's the owner of Sundog Builders. He's a hiker, skier, and hunter. Kyle Davis is the owner of Denali Park Adventures. He has longtime involvement in the chamber. Denali Park Adventures focus on ATVing, Jeeps, and ziplining. I see Patrice is actually on the call, and before I try to pronounce your last name, could you give me some help here, Patrice? Maybe you're muted. Well, Patrice Levine. Okay. All right. Patrice Levine has worked as a trainer for Leave No Trace Center for Outdoor Ethics. She's a writer by trade and an avid hiker, covering over 6,000 miles, including 2 through hikes. Tammany George is a resident of Cantwell and works for ANA. She's been involved in other community boards and planning efforts. Aaron Eddington has a depth of knowledge of the trails in the subarctic. He is also the track coach at Tri-Valley. Terry Boyd is local business owner. He owns Denali Photo Guides and has the Denali Hostel. He has a lot of experience in mountain biking and single track trails, both maintenance and construction. Al Gugesberg explores all seasons and by all means, whether it's hiking, hunting, fishing, pack rafting, camping, dog mushing, snow machining, or snowshoeing. Tina Graham has lived in Anderson and Cantwell for 40 of 50 years, living in the Denali Borough. She knows local trails, off-trail and undeveloped ones. She loves to hike, walk, and ATV. Gabe Travis is co-owner of Interior Trails. He's a professional trails builder and avid skier. And ex officio members, Sarah Lucy works for DOT. So many of the activities we pursue will involve in some way a DOT right of way. And so wanting them at the table to help advise how activities can come to fruition. And then Haley Johnston works for Alaska Trails, and she's worked on plans throughout the state and other communities and has a lot of experience working with different land managers. And then there's, of course, myself and Clay. So it was hard to come down to 9, but this is our hope, that we have different areas, different knowledge, and different areas of interest represented.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to confirm the proposed trail and outdoor recreation committee members.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Ms. Zappone to confirm, then seconded. Any discussion?
It's nice to have a good selection to choose from.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah, good job.
I mean, and to think longevity wise too. Next year, whatever the terms of this committee looks like, there'll be somebody to fill the void.
Absolutely.
What is there an anticipated timeline for the work of the committee?
It was framed as 2 years or until completion of the task, which was a comprehensive trails and outdoor recreation plan. We did receive that second technical assistance grant with RTCA, a branch of NPS. So they're the River Trails and Conservation Assistance Program. And their mission is to assist communities, ones that are next to federal lands and want to pursue their own activities. And so they'll help us kick off our first meeting at the end of the month to look at what vision goals, inventory of trails, and outdoor recreation, looking at borough managed land, state land. And so we'll have their technical assistance throughout the process, which will.
I think this is a pretty good idea, and it's a good time to be doing it. Fully support it. I think it's fantastic, and I feel like we should have had that done a long time ago, but it's good to have such a vast amount of people that want to get involved and be a part. And I think it's going to pay rewards to the borough in the future.
Any other assembly discussion? Anyone opposed to confirming the Trails and Outdoor Recreation Committee members? Hearing none, call that unanimous approval. Got a committee. And brings us to liquor license applications. And we have transfer for the 49th State Brewery, a renewal at the Prey Bar and Eatery, and a renewal for Denali Backcountry Lodge.
Move to not protest.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Shreve, not protest, and been seconded. Any discussion on the liquor license applications? Anyone opposed to not protesting? None, we'll call that unanimous non-protestation. That'll bring us to public comments.
I do have Ms. Jusak would like to provide one.
Yeah.
And I just told her to give her thoughts. Pull her up here. Hi, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, everybody hear her? Okay, go ahead. Okay, we can all hear you. We're ready for your public comment.
So I just wanted to speak to the Golden Valley issue again, and I know you guys have voted on this, but I was kind of surprised to not hear some of my concerns when I sat down to think this through in my role for work and looking at the broader economic impact of this on the borough. You know, they're talking 25 to 30 jobs, a likely additional impact where Usabelli is concerned when you look at, you know, the amount of coal that will then potentially not be needed. And so I try to look at that in terms of what the economic impact would be if we were to lose, say, half of 30 positions in terms of households. Can you hear me?
Yep, yeah, we got you.
I think I'm hearing the echo from the broadcast. Let me turn that on. There we go. And so, you know, if all of a sudden we have 20 families leaving the borough, or more specifically Healy, in all likelihood, you know, what does that do to our school? What does that do to our housing market? What does that do to the businesses that are here year round, that are our, you know, auto supply store, our gas stations and those sort of things. And so I think, while clearly the environment is a huge part of what we need to consider, and the cost of electricity is always going to be something that's on people's minds, I think it's really important to recognize the much broader reaching economic impact of this, and how it will impact the things that aren't visible at that initial first glance. This could be really incredibly detrimental for Healy in a lot of ways, when you really start to look at what the trickle down of something like this would look like. And so, you know, in conversations moving forward that people might have individually or as part of the government, I just want to make sure that those aspects aren't being left out, because those are certainly some of the more important impacts on a broad scale that often seem to be left out of the conversation. So just wanted to add that in as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jusak.
And I can't hear anything, so I don't know if it's or whatever, but that was all I had to say, and thank you.
All right, thanks. We can hear you every word. Thanks.
Right, it's pretty windy here, so I didn't do my
Let me just check my email. Yeah.
All right, go ahead and close public comments and go back to assembly comments. Start with Mr. Stenger.
Thanks. I think it was a really good meeting again. We got a lot done. I'm really impressed with the borough staff, and everybody in the borough. Superintendent Polta and Teresa's doing a great job. Back on the Golden Valley deal. Yeah, but there's always a better way to generate power. We need power to survive and live and produce. Can't go back to the sticks age. Even burning wood's not good, but nobody wants to freeze. But I travel a lot. Windmills are not the answer. Driving across the U.S., there's endless miles of windmills and their turbines with red flashing lights that destroy the scenic beauty of this country. And it's really disappointing to see it when you're driving, past some of your favorite spots. And as far as the eye can see, you see windmills. But those windmills are not productive. They're not enough. They make you feel good, but it's not the answer. So, unless you go nuclear, that's about the cleanest you're going to get, but it has problems also. I know they're putting a nuke in Eielson. There's probably one come to clear in the future, but all that takes time. And to shut something down now when there's nothing in place to replace it, it's senseless. So, all right, this is all I got. Thanks.
Ms. Bone.
No.
Nice try.
No comment. No comment from me. Said my piece. Ms. Bone.
Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate the graduates. I kind of skipped that in the beginning. Part of my role elsewhere in the community is I receive essays from the graduating seniors who are planning on continuing their education. And I get to read them. And I get to read why they want to go off into the world and go do all the wonderful things that they're doing. And my favorite part about that experience is just the transparent, it's like a clear shot at the community that these kids are growing up in when they want to grow up and then go become environmental scientists or a counselor or a mental health professional or a social worker. Somebody wants to go and learn fashion so that they can come back here and open a clothing store. Like, it's pretty cool. And this year was the first time that every one of the Tri-Valley graduates actually submitted their essay. So I got to read all of them. And the graduation ceremony is wonderful. I mean, it's pretty incredible. The school makes 7, 9, 13 kids feel so special because it was just as good as the graduation that I was in back when I was in high school. And so that's really cool too. Mr. Chatfield mentioned my career at the wind farm. I did go alternative energy. I do see value. I do understand a little bit more deeply how those things kind of all come together. And Mr. Stanger is right. You can't just go full wind turbines, but you also can't just go full solar panels. And we also can't be full coal. And so it's not your concerns, Mr. Alexander, Mr. Canale, are not falling on dead ears with me. I just think timing and, like Mr. Jusak said, the socioeconomic impact for our borough as a whole, if those 20 to 30 families do excavate themselves. They're just going to go to another coal something, probably. And so we, again, may as well keep our good people here. Thank you for the meeting. I know it's not as much fun when we all kind of don't agree, but it is better for everybody. Thank you.
Mr. Chatfield.
Yes, it's certainly been an interesting evening, and I just want to thank everybody that's here for attending, and thanks to all the hard work that the borough staff has done to put this together. I'm sorry I couldn't be in Cantwell tonight, but yeah, back to the Golden Valley topic. I do agree that we need to have we need to find better ways of producing our energy in a cleaner manner and a more sustainable manner. We just need to have practicality meet our idealism, though. We can't just have all idealism and no practicality here. And right now, I think we're on a national level where we're seeing what's going on when idealism takes priority over practicality. And we're seeing diesel fuel, which affects every single aspect of our lives, at a record high, where it's unsustainable. Our economy will not be able to sustain the levels, the level of price that our diesel fuel is at right now. It's just not doable. And for us to take this on a local level and cut ourselves off at the knees, probably cut ourselves off at the throat, really, by sitting back and saying, yeah, we don't want a coal-fired plant here. Yeah, it's definitely going to have some catastrophic effects on the community that we have. We need to take those things into consideration. What are the social impacts? What are the economic impacts? And when I say social and economic impacts, I'm not talking about a matter of convenience. I'm speaking to a matter of survival. Maybe our survival doesn't matter to some people, but it matters to us here in this borough. And it matters very seriously. So while I agree that we need to do something, and I actually have my own ideas, we can have a discussion if you'd like as to what we can do about carbon sequestering. But that's something we can do at another time. Yeah, I just have a hard time with this concept of shooting ourselves in the head, metaphorically speaking, of course, and just saying, yeah, well, we're going to die on this altar to climate change. You know. All right, that's enough. I'm done. Everyone have a good night. Thank you.
Ms. Minor.
It's nice to be in person. It's fun. I don't know what the future for our rezoning or redistricting thing is, but I really do appreciate the 9. I appreciate the vast majority of opinions and that it educates. I love it. I love the input because I learn from it, and it's very, I think, helpful. But I'll just say thank you to the borough staff and everything that has gone into this, and the whole packet and the policy. And anyway, you know, they do a lot of work we don't see. So thank you for that. And good to see everybody.
We'll be back.
I'd like to thank everybody who joined us online and in person, and for the comments that we've had, and for the discussion we've had tonight. It's been really good. Was able to watch both the meetings for Fairbanks and for Healy. Didn't get to go in person. A lot of good stuff was brought up. And I hope that the GVA Board of Directors chooses wisely what they're going to be doing, because it's not going to just affect our area as well, like we've talked about tonight. And so that they hope they listen to what the comments that they've heard and what we have to offer for them. And thanks for hosting us here at Cantwell School. It's been nice to get out again and start visiting the communities. Thank you.
And Mr. Alexander.
The one thing I will disagree with that Ms. Zapone said was that it wasn't as fun when we don't agree. I think it's very fun when we don't agree. And all the agreeing can get a little boring. And you know, it's good. It was a lively discussion, and it's good to hear. And it's also good to remember that everybody's got the borough's best interests at heart, and you know, comes from that spot. And it's a fun meeting, I thought. Thanks.
And Mr. Canali.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks everybody who did participate via Zoom, offered comments, and for those traveling, dealing with the road construction to come down here to beautiful Cantwell. It's great to see everybody. Yeah, I don't want to, beleaguer any points that have been made. I really appreciate all the comments in support of the resolution. You know, I totally get, where those comments come from and the importance of them. I also think there is another perspective out there that needs to be considered. And I just, thank the assembly, the members, for allowing a productive forum to have these conversations. And yeah, I think it's healthy to disagree, as long as we're maintaining dignity and respect in those disagreements. And that's something I've always valued since I've been on the borough for a little more than a year and a half now. So thanks, everybody, and look forward to seeing everybody, I guess, up at the borough office in August.
Yeah, August 10th, 2022, 6 p.m. at the office in Ely and via Zoom. Thanks, everybody.
Move to adjourn.
Object.
Too late.
Just kidding.
Gavel spoke.
I saw it. Ah, Don't
I got a head start on all you guys headed north.